Hello, Tarot Travelers. Welcome to Peace Lily Tarot. This reading is going to focus on messages from Uranus. If this is your first time visiting this channel, and this is your, and if this is your first reading with me, you may want to take a look at Mercury, message from Mercury reading, and message from Venus reading. However, you can even start with this one. They're not in any particular order, but I do give a little bit of information about Uranus and Saturn in those other readings. Not a whole lot of it. So again, this reading stands on its own as well. But that is the purpose of this message today, is messages from Uranus. And the reason for that, besides the fact that I received one of those intuitive pokes again to share information about it, about Uranus. Now, as I noted in the Mercury and Venus videos, we are in the middle of a retrograde, we're in a Mercury retrograde period, and we are also in a Venus retrograde period. So they overlap. That doesn't always happen, but in the case, it's happening this year. And I explain in more detail what that means as far as Mercury is concerned and what that means as far as Venus is concerned. Well, this particular reading and message from Uranus is not about retrograde, but it has more to do with a relationship that Uranus has with Saturn and has been having with Saturn during the 2021 year and will continue into the 2022 year. If I'm not mistaken, the square, it's either going to be a perfect square or very close to a perfect square throughout the 2022 period. So I just wanted to share that. But the energies, and when I say square, what I mean by that is that the energies from those two planets are in conflict with each other. And being that they're in conflict with each other, the fact that they give off two very different energies makes it even more, can cause more confusion than we would like in our lives, right? So the other thing I want to say too before I get started is that Mercury and Venus, more so I would say Mercury, but Venus also really affects us in our day-to-day life, our day-to-day or daily lives, the moment-to-moment on a personal level. Whereas Uranus, although depending on the placement in our charts, and as I mentioned before, this channel is not an astrology channel, but there are so many parallels, and there's such a relationship between the tarot deck and astrology. So I can't say that they're not connected, because they are, but it's not something that I get into great detail. I don't go into great depth, the detail of the astrological, the whole system, because I am not an astrologer. But I do know enough to give you enough information to help you understand what in the world is going on around us. And when we're talking about the planet Uranus, we're talking about an energy that affects us more so on a global, more on a collective level than Mercury does, right? So the purpose of this reading is to focus and zoom in on Uranus. And in another reading, I will zoom in on Saturn. And then in a separate reading, I mean, this is my plan now. Every time I have a plan, I end up going in another direction, but that's my plan, is to give a reading on this Saturn square Uranus and what we can do, what we can expect, and what we can do while they are opposing each other, right? So Uranus, just a high level overview. Uranus is a planet that is more about innovation, change, freedom, whereas, flexibility, whereas Saturn is more about structure, slow to change, tradition, systems, hierarchy, etc. Right? So you can imagine if the two planets are squaring each other, conflicts are going to be on, it's almost like on steroids. Okay? I mentioned in another reading, I think it was the Venus reading, Vladimir Putin is a Libra. Libra or Venus rules Libra. Venus and Libra are associated with each other, like Uranus is associated with Aquarius. And it is very interesting that the United States, and I'm going to mention in a little bit about the United States and why it's so important that we know a little bit about Uranus and what it means when Uranus ends up in the exact spot at the time of a person or even a country's birth, which the United States is very much related to what it is that I'm saying. And so again, Uranus is more global, whereas Mercury is more day to day, moment to moment. Uranus is the big picture. And has a lot to do with change, as is noted on the thumbnail. So if this is your first time listening to this reading, I am going to begin by sharing some words, phrases, terms that are associated with Uranus, with the planet Uranus. And then I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview as I go down the list. And then I will begin doing the reading, and I will draw the oracle cards. I'll draw about 3. That's my goal. Sometimes, like in the last reading, I'll end up having to expand on more than 3 cards, but my goal is 3 cards. And then with each card, I will draw the tarot, from the Rider and Waite deck to give a little bit more information. Again, I have no idea what the messages will be today. But the question will be based on how, what kinds of changes can we expect that need to be brought to our attention and how we can get through them in the best way that we can. So let's get started. So Uranus, it takes 84 years for Uranus to make a complete revolution around the sun. Or I should say a complete revolution, which means that's how long it takes as well as to get from sign to sign, if that makes sense to you. So wherever Uranus is placed, for example, and I wanted to bring this up, and I'm going to bring it up. So the United States of America, 1776 was the year of the birth of the nation, and July 4th was identified as the birth date of this country. Well, apparently Uranus, and remember Uranus, it takes 84 years to make a complete revolution. Well, wherever Uranus was at the time of our country's, and I'm saying our country because I'm in the United States, but YouTube is a global community, so I really need to be careful with that. So I will say in the United States, right? In the country of the United States, Uranus is about to enter that place in the United States astrological chart at the very time and the very spot in which it was placed when America was born. And astrologers call this moment, and this doesn't just have to be the United States, this could even be our own astrological chart. they refer to it as the planetary return back to the original position at the birth time. So the United States is older than all of us that are alive right now. And if you're listening to this reading, the country is much older than we are. And that means that the country has had already two planetary returns. When it comes to our own individual charts, Uranus, maybe, if you're lucky and you live beyond the average life expectancy, you will experience Uranus's planetary return when you turn 84 years old, right? And then it starts all over again. And of course, so really, the average human being will only experience, at least, well, not even a full revolution, or experience a revolution and then some, but definitely, of course, not the second revolution. The United States is approaching its planetary return, and they call it the Uranus return, the return of Uranus, or Uranus return. And there are two major events that occurred around the United States Uranus, its own Uranus return. One was the Civil War, and two was World War II. And so many astrologers are already having this conversation about the planetary return for the United States. And if you think about what has been happening, and not just in the United States, I would be very interested to even know, and I will probably, matter of fact, I will look this up at some point. It didn't even occur to me before this reading. But I would be very curious to know the astrological chart of Ukraine, and also for Russia, and also China. I'd like to know the charts for the leaders as well as the countries themselves. Because of this conflict. Now remember, once again, we are in a Saturn square Uranus. So we've got, people wanting things to stay the same versus people who want change. And we've got that kind of back and forth, right? So the United States is approaching its third planetary return when it comes to Uranus. And it has been predicted that the US, and it's probably because, think about it this way, before we even entered, and I can say we, meaning because many countries were involved in World War II. So chances are you maybe live in a country that was involved in World War II. But there was build up before that, right? And World War II was even going on before the US even got involved, right? And the United States was already experiencing its own internal struggles many years leading up to its participation in World War II. The same thing with the Civil War. Think about the chaos and conflicts that led up to this actual Civil War. So the same can be said for our country now, where there's a lot going on that when we look back, in history later on, we will look at this period as the buildup to maybe a second American Revolution, maybe another Civil War, not maybe necessarily in the same way that we fought or this country fought back then in the 1800s. And also think about where we are now. And I didn't write this down, and I will bring it up again in another reading. I believe within the next 2 to 3 years, or 3 to 4 years, will be when when Uranus will end up in the exact spot that it was in at the birth, at when this country was born. And so that's very troubling for many people to hear. But I thought it was really important. It's so important. People, we've already, or I should say, we're already dealing with a pandemic that has affected this whole planet. And I can tell you right now that what has been happening during this pandemic across the world, we can attribute a lot of that to Uranus, or Saturn squaring Uranus, without a doubt. And I am almost certain that there are other planetary, celestial influences that I'm not even aware of. But, astrologers are very much like scientists. Matter of fact, they were considered our first scientists. Some of our first scientists, I should say. And they don't always agree on everything either. And if you ask several astrologers, before a new year starts, well, what do you think we should be paying great attention to? You might get some consensus on certain planets and the way that the planets are interacting. And then you may not, and then you might get differences among the different astrologers. But I will go out on a limb and say that many astrologers are probably looking at Saturn square Uranus, among other areas and relationships and interactions that I don't know a whole lot about. But that in particular is of some concern for people, and it could and explains a lot, I should say. So that is essentially what I, just a little introduction to Uranus and what it means in terms of its placement in a person's chart. And again, it is more of a generational it's more of a generational sign than it is personal. So a whole generation of people have Uranus, essentially, are experiencing Uranus within the same 84-year period, if that makes any sense. So whoever was born within an 84-year period, right? So wherever Uranus was when I was born, right? Then the people who were born, years a little bit before and after, we're all in that cohort. So we have different groups that are affected by Uranus, depending on where it was when we were born. So here are some words and phrases, more words and phrases, I should say, that are associated with Uranus. We've got the awakener, sudden change and shock. Rules Aquarius, which I mentioned before. Liberation, free of restrictions. Generational sign, shared by cohort, but can influence us personally depending on the placement of Uranus in our charts. Stays in a sign for 7 years, and remember there are 12 signs in the zodiac, so 7 years it'll stay in a particular sign. cultural pulse. What happens when Uranus enters a sign? Chaos. Situation. A situation arises, whether it's self-initiated or external, that gives you an opportunity to change course. So something happens either internally or externally that it's almost like a wake-up call for you. Shock and awe. Age of 40 or midlife crisis. So when you get to the middle of Uranus, so we're talking, remember it's 84 years, so once you hit 40, 41, 42 years old, that's the midpoint. And I don't know how old everybody is, but it is the time in your life where and it doesn't even have to be. You can have a crisis at any time, because again, everybody's charts are different. But in general, we could say a crisis could occur for an entire group of people. For example, the Great Resignation. Well, that's affecting, everyone on a collective level. It's not just on an individual. We're all being impacted by the Great Resignation. So, innovation, revolution, wars and other conflicts, provocateur, disruption, shifts in perception, modern technologies, electricity, the internet, inventors, or I should say inventions, it could be both, originality, eccentricity, future, earthquakes, natural disasters, earth changes. The gift of Uranus is to set us free where we've been too rigid or structured for too long. Reminds you of what you really want, and visionary. So those are the words and phrases that, the beauty is you can always pause, go back, and if you thought I was going too quickly, but those are the words and phrases and questions and statements that I have written down that I wanted to share with you regarding Uranus. So I'm not going to go into detail about every word or every term. I will just expand on, as I'm led, as I'm going down the list. So we've got the Great Awakener. So this may be a time, and it is a time, really. For example, now, when the murder of George Floyd happened and the Black Lives Matter protests, and those protests were happening all around the world. It wasn't just here in the United States. That would be an example of Uranus and Saturn opposing each other, because you have people who are awakening to the realities of what has happened historically to different groups of people in the United States. And then you have the people in the camps who are like, those are lies. You just want us to hate our country. We want tradition. We want things to be the same. With President Trump, there was Make America Great Again. In other words, let's go back to the past. We want it the way it used to be. And then you have the other people like, no, we don't want it the way it used to be. The way it used to be is not, wasn't pleasant for everybody. We want to move forward. We want things to be better. And this hasn't just been going on in the United States. There are conflicts and revolutions and great awakenings going on all around the world. And so this is what I mean by Uranus is a country. Uranus is a planet that gives off an energy that promotes change, that causes disruption. And when there's a great awakening, there's disruption. Being awakened can be a wonderful thing, but it can also be very disruptive and painful as well. Sudden change and shocks. When we found out about COVID-19, the next thing we knew, everything was shut down and people were losing their jobs or being laid off from their jobs, or businesses had to shut down. I mean, this was something people had not planned for. It just kind of happened, right? Rules Aquarius, liberation. I think Uganda. Uganda is, I believe, and I don't have any of the news in front of me, but I think it's in Uganda where the military took over in a coup because the president wasn't doing enough, or the prime minister. Please, if there's anyone out there that knows more than I do about this, please share with us in the comments section. But that the government wasn't doing enough to do something about the Islamic militants, the terrorist groups that have been terrorizing people in the country. And because they haven't been doing enough, people got fed up. And so, of course, I am paraphrasing, and this is, it's a very high level, but I just wanted to give you an example of what's happening in terms of people wanting to be liberated, free. I'm going down the list now, free of restrictions. So you've also got, and this is where it can get very complicated, right? Well, people don't want to, I don't want to, and I am not saying this. I am now quoting just other people in general. Well, I don't want to wear a mask. I don't want to get vaccinated. No one should tell me what to do. Why should I have to stay in my house? Why do I have to get vaccinated to keep my job? I want to be free. I want to be able to go to the supermarket and not wear a mask. I feel confined when I wear a mask. So you've got that going on. So you've got the energy of Saturn, which is saying we've got to have mandates, right? So this is where the conflict goes on between Saturn and Uranus. And like I said, I wasn't going to talk about Saturn too much, but sometimes when you talk about its opposite, it makes more sense sometimes. So you see a lot of Uranus-Saturn interaction, squaring interaction going on, not just here, but around the world. People protesting, and not even just a pandemic. Everybody wants to unionize now. Industries that historically never unionized before are now unionizing, like Starbucks. There's another, and I don't remember, it's another industry. I can't remember what it is. I get inundated with so much news. Sometimes the stories overlap for me. But there are more people now in different industries who are like, hey, we want to unionize too. Because workers are now having the upper hand. Like I mentioned before, generational sign, shared by cohort, but can influence us personally, placement in chart. But much of what I'm talking about in terms of Uranus is happening to us collectively, and or globally. But it can also happen to individuals, and depending on where Uranus is in your chart will depend on how many shakeups are occurring in your personal life versus, your average person who Uranus isn't so prominently placed in the chart, and they might not be dealing with these upheavals in the way that someone else where Uranus is in these strategic areas of your chart, and you're experiencing these upheavals similar to what I am listing and talking about in this video. All right, so it stays in a sign for 7 years. Cultural pulse. What happens when Uranus enters a sign? So it really depends. on the planet that your sign rules. So when we say, what happens when Uranus enters a sign? Well, it depends. Uranus is ruled by Aquarius, or Aquarius is ruled, I tell you, like I said. But so Aquarius and Uranus are associated with each other. So if you have a fire sign or another air sign that is associated with your placement of Uranus, it may not be as tumultuous, I guess, as if you had Uranus placed with like a water or earth sign, right? Chaos. I don't think I need to say more than that. It's also, so sometimes situations can occur too that are either self-initiated or come from the external environment. So going back to the pandemic and the Great Resignation, there are some people, many people for that matter, who were booted out of their jobs, or maybe they were furloughed or laid off temporarily, or whatever the case is, they were booted and went on unemployment, and realized after being out of the work environment for a while, discovered that they really didn't like their jobs at all. That they wanted to do something different. And many people did. Some people changed jobs. Some people made career switches altogether. Others went into their own businesses. Some people's businesses shut down. I mean, there were just so all of that begins to make sense when you think about what Uranus, that energy of Uranus, but also the energy of Saturn that wants things to stay the same, right? And again, depending on where Saturn is placed in your chart as well. Shock and awe. I mentioned age of 40 or midlife crisis. I'll talk about shock and awe again in just a second. Innovation. So, we have the new vaccines. There's also have been some developments in genetic engineering where they're able to fix, cure diseases by repairing the genes that are responsible for causing the issues in the human body. I have the word revolution here. Many, and his history will probably show that the United States is in the middle of its, or at the beginnings of its second revolution. Wars and other conflicts. There, we have China with Taiwan and the whole Pacific, area over there in East Asia. And we've got, Europe and the United States and the whole, well, I'll just say NATO. And we've got the issue with Ukraine and Russia. So we've got that going on. We have upheaval going on throughout the continent of Africa. We've got issues going on in South America. I mean, it's all over. All over. Provocateur, disruption, shifts in perception. People are beginning, and sometimes it doesn't seem like it at times, but people are beginning to wake up and are beginning to realize that people have not been living in the same realities. If that makes any sense to you whatsoever. And what people thought they knew is like being shattered almost on a daily basis, right? Modern technologies, electricity. I think this is going to be a time as well where we're going to have to really pay careful attention to our electrical grid. And not just now that we're in the square, but in general, that this is a time, particularly if we are about to have this planetary return, and I'm talking about the United States in particular, but depending on the birth of the country that you live in, it would be interesting to find out where you are in terms of Uranus's planetary return and the position of Uranus at the time of the birth of your country, and where Uranus is now in relation to that. The internet, inventions, originality. So Uranus is also responsible for many good things. Change isn't always bad. Change, sometimes, yes, change can be very disruptive, but at the same time, it could also bring badly needed changes that, because human beings don't like change very much, sometimes things happen that forces us to change. I remember when schools, universities in K-12, colleges, universities in K-12 had to go remote. And of course, it was, we had people that just were not prepared to teach children online, and children, many of them were not prepared to learn online. And so this was like a wake-up call to many districts around the country, and they're like, hey, we need to really up our game here. We are so far behind, in terms of not just our technological capabilities and the training levels of the staff and faculty, but just in terms of mindset and being caught with your pants down. That's just what came to my mind at the moment, but that's essentially what happened. Originality. But going back to, caught with your pants down, it's also an opportunity to kind of look at, okay, where do we go from here? Now that we've had this experience, what do we need to do so that we can move ourselves forward, so that if anything like this happened again, we're ready, right? And then how much of what we've been doing, as because of this pandemic and the shutdown, maybe there are some aspects of what we were doing that maybe we could keep doing. Maybe we could keep it even when we go back to a regular school schedule. You never know. And maybe the opposite. Hey, you know what? This might be a good opportunity for us to toss this and get rid of it for good, right? So again, so everything that I'm saying right now is associated with Uranus. Future, very future-oriented. Earthquakes, natural disasters, and earth changes. So definitely expect that. Remember the volcano eruption off the coast of Spain? And we were watching that very closely, and people were like, oh my goodness, we could have a tsunami on the Atlantic coast of the United States, which is it's very real possibility. I know we focus so much on the Pacific, but there is also that possibility on the Atlantic side as well. But Tonga recently experienced an underwater volcanic eruption, and the whole west coast line from Alaska all the way down to Mexico and Hawaii was on a tsunami. I don't think it went to the warning. I think it was an advisory. I think it was at the advisory level, which is like one step below warning. And they did have tsunami waves, but I don't think that they were as large as they had anticipated. Thank goodness. But again, earthquakes, natural disasters, earth changes, tornadoes, any weather events. As I mentioned before when I talked about schools having to go remote, the gift of Uranus is to set us free when we've been too rigid or structured for too long. So we see that with our government, with Congress, you know, and I'm just talking about, and I have to remember that YouTube has a global audience. And so what I'm asking you to do, and I will continue, because I have to get used to this. This is a new channel, and I have to remember who my audience is. And I really don't know who my audience is yet, because this is a new channel. So as soon as I know who you are, then I will definitely be more thoughtful about what I say, what do I include, and how I say it. But wherever you happen to live on the planet, I want you to apply what I'm saying to your unique situation. This might give you some motivation and inspiration to do a little digging about your own country and when the birth of your country occurred, and where Uranus, you know, was at the time, and when will your country's planetary return happen with that planet, and kind of look at what's going on in your country, in your community right now. Uranus also, the energy of Uranus also reminds us of what we really want. It is the visionary. And remember from the last reading, and I think it was Venus, it may have been Mercury, I can't remember, but the vision, the message of, you know, focusing on your vision, go back and revisit your vision. What do you really want? And when we have experiences in our lives, shakeups, I should call them, in our lives, that really gets us to start thinking about what's really important and what we really want, they may seem like curses, and we get very upset and angry at, you know, some of unexpected events that may occur in our lives, but they're also opportunities for us to think and to make changes that we probably couldn't make if we had been in the same situation, right? So those are just some highlights, some high-level information about Uranus and what that energy brings with it. And like every quality, I like to call it, there is the light and then there's the shadow. And every planet has that light and shadow aspect. Every astrological sign has the light and the shadow aspect. And Uranus's shadow aspect could be, you know, complete confusion and chaos. That doesn't serve us well at all. And sometimes, you know, if we have too much Uranus, did I say Uranian? If we have too much energy from Uranus, sometimes we might need a little bit more structure, and we need to draw on some of Saturn's energy to kind of get us back on track, right? And then on the other hand, we might have too much structure. Maybe things do need to change and there is this resistance, and we need a little bit of that energy from Uranus to shake things up and get things moving and changing. So I don't ever want anyone to think that any planet or any sign is all good or all bad. None of them are all good and none of them are all bad. They all have the light and shadow qualities. And it's like a delicate balance. It's like a dance, almost. So that is what I wanted to share with you regarding Uranus. And so now I want to move on to the readings. I am going to use the Raven Oracle deck, and I had mentioned in the beginning, I think I did. I've never used this deck before for the recorded readings, and I'm still getting to know this deck. And there are some cards that in the deck that are not as clear to me as some others, and so we'll see what happens. I do have my little book here to kind of give me some inspiration to help clarify for me what it is that I'm looking at. And I may not have to use the little booklet at all. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I want to say too, just in case this is your first time listening to this video or visiting this channel, as you know, the mission of this channel is to read, teach, and learn tarot. And so one of the pieces of advice that I give people who want to learn how to read tarot themselves is to really get to know the cards and look at the images, kind of get a sense for, you know, what the swords generally mean, what the wands generally mean, what the cups and the pentacles generally mean. But then beyond that, you can get to know the energy coming from the cards and looking at the images and using your intuition to pick up what it is that the cards are trying to tell you. And I think that that is probably the best way to start. I don't think if you try to memorize the meanings of every card, you'll be paralyzed. Like you will. It'll take you more time than is necessary to learn to do readings. And so I just wanted to throw that out there. At the same time, I don't see anything wrong. Like I said, you use your intuition. I mean, sometimes I'll do a reading. Most of the time, I can just kind of pull the cards out and I can pick up what's going on. But like I said, I'm using this new deck here, and sometimes I might find myself referring to the book, and I'm like, okay, the people who wrote this, you know, created this deck, what did they have in mind for this card? And just give me a sense, and then I'll kind of combine that with what I think I'm picking up from the cards. So just wanted to throw that in. Okay, so I'm going to put this to the side, and I am going to begin pulling from the Raven Oracle deck. So the question that we want is, what do we need to know about the changes? What are some changes that we need to be aware of right now as a collective? And there are a lot of them that are going on, but what are some messages that you have for us? So this is Uranus, right? Focusing on the energy of Uranus, the planet Uranus. What do you want us to know about these upcoming changes that are occurring or going to occur? What kind of advice do you have for us regarding these changes? So I'm just going to, and sometimes I don't, like depending on how I'm sitting, you might not see me shuffle the cards, but you'll hear me shuffling the cards. But I don't want anybody to think there's any funny business going on. So okay. So there are two. Okay, put that there. And sometimes a card will fall out and I'll put it back in because I'm not feeling it. But those all right. Any more messages you have for us regarding the energy of Uranus? What do we need to know about these changes? Any advice, messages you have for us? Remember, I'm drawing on the planetary energies of Uranus. What do we need to know? What do we need to know? Sometimes it takes a while, no? Okay. I feel like I should draw another one. Just have that feeling. I said 3, but I just think maybe 4. Maybe more than that. Let's see. You have any other messages for us regarding these changes that we're going through or changes that are going to occur? Okay. All right. Put these to the side. So I have 4 cards, and I'm going to put these over here, and I will I'll show you what, I'll turn them over when it's time. Okay, so let's see what the message is from this card, first card. Okay, bring it up closely. Ebb and flow. Isn't that interesting? Look at that. Ha! Ebb and flow. Look at that. Love it. So what this is telling me, which is not a surprise, that as hard as it may be for us to do, and I do recall from a previous reading, I don't remember if it's Mercury or Venus, I brought out the Pocket Tao book, the whole idea of the yin and the yang, and that there is this constant movement going on at all times. And when we try to go against that movement is when trouble occurs. So what I'm getting from this is that we need to go with the flow. We have to avoid trying to control outcomes. That some changes should be allowed, or should I say, whatever it is that is unraveling, whatever shakeups may be occurring, that we need to essentially allow it to happen, is what I'm getting from this message. For me, and I'm just kind of just looking at this card, I'm getting somewhat of like a dragon type energy from here. And when I think of dragon, I think of fire. And when I think of fire, I think of purification. So when there is some shakeup going on, as it may seem like it may seem tragic on the surface, but chances are it's much needed. So what I want to do is find out from tarot. I want to get a little bit more information about in what areas of our lives is this going on? Is it going to, which areas of our lives will we need to really focus on going with the flow and allowing the shakeups and changes to occur? What parts of our lives should we? So this is my Rider-Waite deck, and I'm just waiting for some more information regarding having to go with the flow and where, pertaining to what. Okay. Oh, all right, here's one. Get a couple of, okay, these two. Any more before I turn them over? Do it a few more times and then I'll put it down. Okay. All right. Just looking outside. Okay, so I don't have my glasses on. Interesting. As I always say. Interesting. Okay. All right. So we've got, and I don't have my glasses. We've got the 9 of Cups. We've got the 9 of Swords. So this is very interesting because the number 9 in numerology is a number of completion, coming to the end of something. We're coming towards the end of something, I guess I should say. But then we also have a new beginning here with the Ace of Pentacles. So we've got I am picking up at the moment. This might have to do with family and finances. I don't know if there was a job loss. Maybe there's some stress-related situations going on regarding work, or there's someone in your family that's having this experience with work. It seems to me, it almost seems like you went from everything was fine, and then something occurred that kind of shook everything, from its foundation and created a lot of anxiety, angst, depression. But this card is telling me that this is necessary for this to happen. I think that whatever shakeup occurred, it will be for your benefit, particularly in the area of finances. So it may not look that way now on the surface, and it is a shakeup because I get the impression that there was a sense of stability at one point, and then there isn't, but that there will be a new beginning that will be very beneficial in your finances in particular. I'm picking up the finances. I'm picking up your home, your house. So I'm kind of getting work-life issues, and they're related to each other in some kind of a way. Any more information about this? Any other information about this? So know, if you are experiencing a dark night of the soul, that you're going to come out of it. Any more information about this? Oh, nice. Yeah. Looks like you're going to get some help. Some help from an influential person. It could be someone in the family, it could be someone in the job, in the community that will help you with this. But this is a setback, but it seems like a much needed setback. Let's see. Any other information about going with the flow? Any more information about this particular situation, or is there any other? Okay. Let's see. Ooh, nice. Look at that. And I don't even know if it was upside down or. Yeah, I am getting that whatever shakeups are going on at the moment, the current trajectory. So this is very important for me to note this. When we're dealing with tarot, when we're working with tarot, is that it picks up on the energies at the present moment. So the current trajectory is that if you let it kind of unravel and work out, that whatever sorrow has come from this shakeup from, going from this to this, that shakeup is actually going to lead to some this is a very hopeful situation, I think. So shakeups aren't always a bad thing. And some of I also am picking up, for some people, some of your dreams are going to become reality. Some of you will start new businesses. Some of you will make career changes. Some of you will retire. But I'm not, and for those of you who are going to retire, Yeah, I don't see you stopping at all. I see you doing something else, even if it's not making money, but it's maybe something creative, some kind of a creative endeavor, maybe some community involvement of some sort. But I don't see you stopping altogether. Any other messages about this ebb and flow? And if it's time to retire, it's time to retire. You know, listen to, you know, there's some of you out there, you're getting signs that you cannot ignore. Because see, here's the thing about tarot. I don't look at, the future is not chiseled in stone. There are many possible outcomes. And if you are getting nudged by the universe to make a change and you don't make a change, then this could, you know, the outcome could be very different from what we see here, right? So listen to those signs that you're getting. Don't ignore them. Don't continue to ignore them. Any other clarifications about what's already here or anything? Okay, look at that. Very strong messages here. Definitely lots of prosperity and financial comfort. Maybe people will get the homes that they've always wanted, the job they always wanted. Maybe they'll get a promotion. I see a lot of material prosperity happening as a result of these shakeups. So, and again, this is a collective reading. So these shakeups could be in any area of your life, family, work, but money is definitely involved. Finances. Yeah, maybe a new job or a new hobby or an intellectual pursuit. Maybe you want to go back to school, take some classes, maybe not necessarily for a degree, for personal enrichment. I can see that happening. Some of you are going to learn to become a little bit more technologically savvy. I'm picking that up. And it's funny because Uranus is a technology card, or technology, you know, the energy around Uranus is technology. And this is very interesting. This is upside down. So like I mentioned before, and let me just move these up so that you see everything. Sometimes they get cut off. Bring this up. So just bring these up a bit. All right. So, like I said, I don't read them in the reverse, but I do make a note of it. And I remember, I think it was the Venus reading. There was, or maybe it was, I can't remember, Mercury or Venus. There were so many upside down cards. Like, it was so notable. You know, it was notable reading in terms of, and there were a lot of wands. But this being upside down is a reminder, and what I'm getting from this is, and although the Magician isn't just a card of manifestation, but it's a huge manifestation card, and it is related to manifestation in the case of this reading. Good things are available to us if we would just allow the yin and the yang to do its, you know, it's kind of, I don't know, it seems like a contradiction in a way, because on the one hand, it's like, well, we can take control of our lives. The future's not set in stone. That's true. But it's also true that sometimes when things are unraveling or unfolding in a certain way, and if we interfere with that unraveling and unfolding, we can also interfere with the positive outcome that is available to us if we follow the current trajectory. Like right now, we are on the right path, right? And with all the disruption and the dark night of the soul experiences that some of us are having, there's so much, look at this, there's so much available to us if we would just allow ourselves to move through these changes without trying to interfere, which is a very hard, very, very hard thing to do. And it's almost like we're being tested in a sense, right? Interesting. This is a very beautiful, beautiful layout here. That this isn't going to be forever. It doesn't have to be forever because there's so much prosperity and abundance available to us. A lot of material comfort. Also, whatever dreams people had, some of your dreams could become a reality. But at the same time, right? We've got to allow, we've got to have, the word that comes up to me is coming up for me is vision. And so we also have to stay focused on whatever that vision is for us. That this disruption that occurred is not forever, but the changes that are unfolding, or whatever it is that's unfolding, is going to lead to the realization of our dreams, increased prosperity, and for those who are retiring. And if you are not at an age where you're going to retire, there still could be maybe the ending of a particular, what's the word I'm looking for? A phase of your life and the beginning of a new phase. But I am getting lots of material prosperity and abundance and the starting of, new ventures, business-wise, and those, So anyway, that is what I'm getting from this ebb and flow message. And that is what I'm getting from this energy that I'm picking up from Uranus, that change isn't necessarily a bad thing in this case. And that we just have to, which is not always easy, but we have to let things kind of unfold, because there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Definitely a light at the end of the tunnel. Okay, so I'm going to pick up these cards. And again, as I mentioned before, maybe I didn't. I just mentioned the comment section. But if any of this makes sense to you so far, this is not a pick a card, but you can make it into a pick a card and choose whatever timestamp you want. And let me just put this up here. But if this resonated with you in any kind of way, I invite you to share in the comment section. You can also like this video. If you want to hear more messages from this channel, click on subscribe, hit the bell if you want to get the notifications for any new videos that are posted. All of that is welcome. Okay, next one. Farewell. Isn't that interesting? That's so funny. It might not be funny for some people, so I won't want to laugh. Farewell. So this is telling me here, some of you might be moving. You could be moving locations where you live. Maybe moving to a different town, a different state, a different country. I'm not sure if this is job related. Some of you may have to move away from your families, or maybe some family members are moving away from you. And people you care about, most definitely. I'm not getting the sense that it has anything to do with any toxic relationships. So let's get a little bit more information about this farewell card. What does this have to do with the changes that are coming and how we should deal with them? Farewell. I mean, farewell just means like we'll be separating. So give us some more information about this farewell card, please. Oh, okay. All right. Couple of more cards. Get started. Look at cards. Fit. All right, these two. Farewell. What do we have? Look, we just saw this, didn't we? Did we not just see this card? Look at this. It's like, what are the odds here? Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. So when that happens, what I would suggest that you do is make a note of Ace of Pentacles and the Emperor card. Just a note, just a side note. So I'm getting again, I'm picking up family, friends, acquaintances, there may even be some separations occurring, amicable ones though. I'm not getting mutually agreed upon, I guess, separations I'm getting from this. I'm also getting, there might be some of you in relationships that need to be dissolved, and there may be a fear of you starting over, and you may feel like if you leave, you're going to encounter some rough patches, particularly in terms of your financial resources. But I do see new opportunities for you in this big going away that some of you are going to be dealing with, and you might be the one leaving, or someone else might be the one leaving. I'm getting the impression that a male figure of some sort will be involved somehow in this change and this separation. But that there's also going to, once this separation occurs, because remember I said when I looked at this farewell card, I didn't get a sense of, like, I'm not getting a sense that the separations are occurring because of some tragedy, or abuse, or darkness and turmoil within the situation. And I don't know how any of this makes sense. And again, because this is a collective reading, I could also be getting overlapping messages. So there might be parts of what I'm saying that make sense and some parts that don't, and may make sense to someone else. I'm also seeing a new relationship. So it may not even be, you might already be a singleton and there's a new relationship on the horizon. Let's see, any other information. I haven't really gotten, this is, oh, here we, I haven't gotten a lot of relationship cards or readings, I should say, messages in the readings that I've been doing. I mean, I think I got maybe one or two, but not too many. Yeah, some of you might think that starting over is going to create more work for you. I don't, and maybe it will to some degree, but I don't see it as, I think this is a much needed change that's going to help you grow. You may be able to grow in ways that you have not had an opportunity to do throughout the years. But this will be an opportunity, and there are going to be and I think there might be some rough patches along the line, you know, along this journey, but it's not permanent. I'm not getting the sense of that any struggles you encounter will be permanent. Let's see what this is. Yeah, look at this. We saw the King of Pentacles in the last reading. So isn't this a message here? I mean, yeah. I see success, abundance. I see material prosperity. So I'm also getting, maybe there are some people. So this farewell too may not just have to do with people, but it could also be a farewell to hard times. That's what that's another layer of this message, saying farewell to hard times. And that there's work, that there might be some work ahead, but I see definitely some good news coming out, especially regarding money and material goods. New car, maybe, new home, new, like I said, some people might be actually moving. Let's see. Any other information? Look at that. Yeah, there's a fear of being alone I'm getting here. And again, I'm not going to leave it upside down, but I'm getting the impression that there are some of you that don't want to be by yourselves. And I'm telling you right now that for those of you who are in a situation where you're going to be alone for, you haven't been alone in a while, but you will be, it's all going to be good. Like, I'm not getting any indication that, I've got two cards here. Look at that. Yeah. You're going to be okay. Look at this. Look at that. It's wonderful. Like, remember what I said? I don't see this farewell as being a bad thing. Like, I really see this as you are going to end up happy. Some of you may end up, maybe some of you will stay by yourselves, but I don't see that here. I think I'm getting the sense of second chances here. New relationships. And some of you may already be in a new relationship, and there's a lot of potential. And maybe even some of you might end up having another child. There could be an adoption. Maybe the person that you get together with may already have children. And, or maybe you already have a child and they have children and they'll come together. So this doesn't necessarily have to be the birth of a physical baby, but could be also the birth of a new type of family situation. So all of that coming from this. So I think it's beautiful. So far, I'm picking up really positive and hopeful messages from the Uranus energy. And maybe that's the case because we are living in a time where things seem hopeless. You look on the news, There's inflation, right? Costs of groceries are going up, and I mean, there's turmoil in our governments, and the list goes on. But I really see on a personal level, this isn't even, these messages that I'm getting are about our lives at the personal, family, and community levels. I'm not getting a global message here, but this is beautiful. Like when I saw this, you see the word farewell, but like I said, I was picking up really positive vibes, and it is. Look at that. Look at that. But there's no need to fear being alone. Take time out for yourself. It will be very beneficial. And also, it's okay for you to branch out on your own. And even though it may, and it's very interesting, it would come under this card. And I don't always make the associations. I mean, sometimes I do, sometimes it stands out, and sometimes it doesn't. But there is a fear of this happening, but you're going to be okay. Look at the cards you're going to be okay. That is what I'm getting. In the end, and there isn't really an end, but you know what I mean, you're going to be fine. Beautiful. Beautiful. So if this resonated with you, again, this is not pick a card, but if you just pick this part of the reading to listen to, and this, resonated with you in some kind of a way, by all means, share in the comment section, click the bell, subscribe, and just I invite you to share and you may even be a tarot reader, whether you're beginner, intermediate, or advanced. If you picked anything up in any messages from the cards that maybe you picked up the same thing I did, or maybe you have some additional messages I didn't share that you're picking up that may be helpful for others, please share. All right, moving on. To continue this reading, let's see what's next. Wild at heart. Look at that. Wild at heart. I love this card, by the way. Wild at heart. So it's really funny, the planet Uranus and the energy and the themes associated with this planet. There may be some of you out there who are creatives. You may be into the arts, music, performing arts, I see some creation and it doesn't even have to be in the arts, but I'm picking up a lot of creativity, creation, newness, from this card. So let's consult tarot and see what else comes of this. Wild, interesting. Ooh, look at that. And I'm just gonna turn it over. I want to do this too. Wild at heart. I'm gonna check this little booklet here, see what the creators of this Ravens. Oh, this is Goddess Tarot. Oh, I gotta make sure I get the right. Here we go. All right, Wild at heart. Is there a number? I'm just very curious, but that is what I'm picking up as far as this card is concerned. But I want to see what else it says. what did they mean by it? I don't, oh, I guess it is alphabetical. Oh, no, it's not alphabetical. So, oh, maybe it is. Oh, here we go. Let's see what it says. Eagles have been pushed, and here's the book. So here's the book here. Eagles have been pushed farther into remote and rocky places by persecution. Witches have been forced to find ever more secluded locations for their covens for much the same reasons. Daisy Nettles could dwell on her bitterness at this injustice, but would it do any good? Instead, she takes flight on her lightning staff into those harsh mountains where the eagles reign and finds peace in her love of music. No matter the scale of the darkness facing us, beauty is always singing. Daisy finds just a few notes on her violin are enough to soften the gloom of the darkest clouds. So yeah, I'm getting this is relationship oriented or people oriented. So it doesn't necessarily have to be on an individual level. It could be like two groups coming together, or groups coming together that share a similar passion. I'm going to continue to ask Tarot to give us some clarification, but I don't think that the message is too far off from what I was picking up, but I'm getting creation and creativity, performing arts, music. Maybe let's just ask Tarot any more information about this, because the Two of Cups, beautiful, beautiful card. Any more information about this message coming from the Ravens card? Any other information? That clarity, please. Oop. Okay. Look at this. Oh, yeah. So, well, I will state the obvious, and then I will state other layers to this. So, people are going to be finding Mr. or Mrs. Right in terms of people, right? I see new relationships blossoming. I see existing relationships blossoming. But I'm also getting, maybe you're going to pick up a new hobby, or maybe a hobby that you've had in the past will be rekindled. Somehow I'm still getting this creative musical, but maybe it's a wedding. I don't know. There's music, a band playing at the wedding. Somehow I'm picking up, beautiful, positive, loving relationship, groups coming together, or partnerships, positive partnership. It could be a partnership. I'm not picking up so much in the business, but maybe in the community, at a community level, something could be going on, and there could be, maybe marriage. It could be marriage. It could be moving in together. It could be, let's get some more information here. But I'm still picking up, there's some creative energy too. This is upside down, but Queen of Swords. Let's see. What does this mean? Wait, okay. Look at that. So there might be, I usually, and I have not up until this point too much, have attributed a particular card to a person with a particular astrological sign. So what I will say is this, that there is a person who is of the air sign Libra, Aquarius, or Gemini, that may be very instrumental in helping in the igniting or helping in some kind of way in this happening. I don't know what, this person is very instrumental. It could be a mother, it could be a mother-in-law, it could be someone who is, maybe it could be someone who you work with. But I still am picking up creativity, something dealing with creation. Again, music, performing arts, visual arts, dance. I'm picking up from this card. But then that's when I saw these, I was like, well, maybe it's a wedding, because at weddings people dance, they celebrate. So that could very well be. It says wild at heart. Could be. Maybe there could also be an elope. You know, people are eloping. Maybe it's not your traditional wedding. I'm just getting, this is what I find very interesting about this Uranus message, is that it's a lot. I'm surprised that a lot of this didn't come out with the Venus reading, but it's coming out with the Uranus reading. So maybe there are going to be some shakeups in the relationship department, right? But for good. I'm not getting any, ominous messages. Let's any other information. Are there any additional messages or more about what it is that we're looking at right now? Oh, that's all right. Any additional, more information about this wedding or engagement or again, I'm not getting any, oops, okay. Let's just go with these cards right here. Let's see. These were upside down. Okay. Yeah. Lots of celebration. And it's funny that this card comes under this one. Yeah, this person is very, very instrumental. They may even be, they may even assist with the money aspect, the financing of whatever the event is that is occurring around. Like I said, it's like a huge celebration, but at the same time, I'm getting multiple messages. I'm going, from we're just gonna elope and we're gonna go to see a minister to we want to have a big celebration. But this card is telling me that it won't be like your traditional wedding or celebration or anniversary, maybe engagement. Doesn't have to just be a wedding, but whatever it is, it's very happy, and this person is very much instrumental. Also, the message coming out is here, the High Priestess can, could be it's the card, it could be an advisor of some sort, or it could have something to do with you in terms of following your own intuition, follow your own mind, right, regarding the situation. Trying to understand, I'd like a little bit more clarification about this card here. Oh, here are the cards. We've got the Six of Swords. What is that all about? Not quite seeing how that fits in with the rest of these cards. I need a clarification. Six of Swords, please. Clarification on Six of Swords. Clarification on for Six of. Okay, this one. Oh, here we go with this card again. It's, you know, there was a card that popped out while I was shuffling. I think it was the Five of Wands. I believe it was the Five or Six of Wands. It may have been the Five of Wands. Let me show you. And it's funny, it popped out and then I was like, I just kind of passed on. But I did make a note of it, and now it's funny that, okay, so is this it? No, this is not it. But I just want you to see it because it did come up, and now that I'm thinking about it, I'm seeing this other card here. And it's a little bit of, so here we go. This is the card that I saw earlier, and it just kind of caught my attention, and I didn't draw everybody else's attention to it, but I saw it. So I'm bringing it up now. So there are some of you who are teetering on whether or not you want to have a celebration where you invite like family members and friends, you know, you want to celebrate this new relationship. And it doesn't even have to be a wedding. It could be an anniversary. It could be an engagement. It could be any kind of a partnership of some sort, a romantic partnership. But there's also this potential humming in the background of some disruption that could cause isolation and grief, could cause some strife, I'm getting, among family members, not necessarily to friends. And my record, you know, the cards are saying to me here that all this beautiful, lovely, you know, colorful, uplifting, positive energy can be disrupted by this. So think very carefully about how you go about celebrating this new relationship or rekindling of a relationship or whatever it is that you're celebrating. You may want to make it a smaller event than this big fancy. I'm not picking up like you need to be having like a 500 guest or 200, even 100 guest celebration. I'm getting the sense the smaller the better in this case is what I'm getting from this message here, because it could cause some problems I could see already if you go that route. Just a thought just kind of came up. And also beware of, and maybe that's where this person comes in here, beware, especially the other aspect of it too, besides upheaval from family members, but there could also be, you may have to work extra hard to kind of make up for the money that you spent on this big event, and it may not necessarily be a good idea. You might, I mean, if you're willing to work hard just to make up for what you spent, that's fine. But just to let you know that there are other options available to you besides having a grand spectacle of a celebration. So just thought, you know what, at first when I did all the other readings that I've done so far, I have not, there have been some relationship based cards, but this particular reading with Uranus is very much relationship based. A lot of it is, which is beautiful. And it's funny, we're coming up upon February is the Valentine's Day month in a lot of places, and people make plans to get engaged, to get married, celebrate anniversaries, etc. So in short, keep it simple and don't spend too much. But other than that, it looks like it's going to be a beautiful event or a beautiful situation, regardless of what it is. And whoever this person is that's trying to help, let them help you in whatever way they're going to help you. All right, so I am going to close us out with this final card. And remember, this is not a pick a card, but you have the timestamps, and by all means, listen to the messages separately, or you can listen to this as a whole reading. It's totally up to you. All right, so finally, look at this, very, very pretty. A rare bloom. Look at this. So let me tell you what is coming up for me. And I love all the dragon imagery, by the way. Let me tell you what's coming up for me looking at this card, especially you see the young woman holding a newly grown, or a plant that's just sprouting. I know that, when I talk about Uranus and Saturn and squaring each other, and there's conflict, and you have Mercury in retrograde and Venus in retrograde, and all of those events sound like doom and gloom. But really, the readings, the messages that have been coming out of this particular reading have all been very favorable and positive and inspiring. And I'm getting that message with this one as well. I believe that whatever, there have been seeds, we've all, and again, this is a collective message, that we have been planting seeds for a very long time. And there have been numerous disruptions and changes and, shock and awe, whatever you want to, and it's all relative, right? Shock and awe for one person may not be for another, but depending on your unique situation, some of the seeds have been germinating, but you have not been able to see some of you haven't been able to see some of the work flourish outside of the ground, right? But I think now there are going to be opportunities, and I like to call them opportunity days. I mentioned March as a very important month for that to happen. I have not focused a lot on the year 2022 in terms of the different months, and I did say in another reading that I was going to do that. Every time I say I'm going to do something, I'm moved and pushed to do something else. But I really want to, maybe I'll do a reading about what are our opportunity months or opportunity days. I'll have to figure out how to do that, or how I will do that for this channel. But I really am getting the impression from this card that in the midst of all of these changes, many of us are going to see, and I mentioned this came up in one of the other cards, that some of our dreams are going to become a reality. And for the seeds that we've been sowing, we are going to begin seeing, especially in the month of March, and then it'll go on from there, with still some hiccups along the way, but nevertheless, we are going to begin to see some of our work that we've been doing for a very long time begin to bloom. And I'm very excited about that. This Uranus reading is by far probably the most encouraging if I had to compare it to, because I didn't know what was going to come out of this reading. Very encouraging. So I'm going to go to tarot, right? I'm going to really mix up these cards. We've been seeing some repeats, right? So we want some more information. Oh, here's one. Look at that. New beginnings, creative energy. Yeah. We're going to be beginning to see the beginnings. We're going to be able to see whatever it is, whatever seeds we've been planting is going to get things moving. We're going to start seeing growth. We need more information about this, a rare bloom. I think I think the rare bloom too is, I think I mentioned this in another reading about, so I live in the North Country of the country, in the northern part of the country, and there's a lot of snow, right? In upstate New York, I mean, it's not a secret, right? So we get a lot of snow. We get lake effect snow. And one of the analogies that I used for that, and for those of you who live in warm tropical climates and you've never been in a snowy place, lake effect snow is snow where it's like cold air meets, there's warm water. The water is still warm, and I guess, so you got that warmness and the cold air kind of mixing together. And we get like all this snow. It's almost like someone has a big giant 5 square mile bucket and they just like kind of dump it on us, right? So one of the things that you'll notice during a lake effect, sometimes this happens. You'll get a whole lot of snow, like I'm talking like several inches. And then all of a sudden there's a blue sky outside. I mean, I'm talking blue. I remember a meteorologist was talking about, if there's enough blue in the sky to make a pair of blue jeans, it's a beautiful day or something like that, right? But beautiful, I mean, I'm talking clear, crisp blue, right? And the sun is shining and there's this snow all over the place. So the plowers are going around, they're plowing the snow, people are getting their cars dug out and they're going out, and whatever it is that people do when there's a clear, the coast is clear, let's do what we have to do and then get out there, and then we got to get back and hunker down because the snow is coming back. Next thing you know, maybe an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours later or so, more snow comes, and you would never have thought that we ever had a blue sky. Well, that's kind of like what I'm getting the sense 2022 is going to be a year like that. So we're going to have these opportunity months or these opportunity weeks or opportunity days where we're going to be able to be as productive and prosperous and experiencing abundance. We're going to be able to see some of our seeds become, leaves and flowers and trees in some cases. And then, of course, then those other dark days, I don't even want to call it dark, but days where, maybe there's that dormant period again. And then you get the other opportunity days, and then you'll begin to see more of whatever it is that you've been planning will begin to continue to sprout. And so that's how I see 2022. And March just keeps coming to me as one of those months. So it could be the beginning, the start, whatever it is that, you've been wanting to start a creative or business enterprise. You'll be able to do that. Look at this, Knight of Cups. Maybe new relationships. This could be related to anything. Maybe you've been Maybe you had an eye on a person, or maybe you know someone and neither one of you have told each other how you feel. Maybe this is the time to do it. You'll have an opportunity to do it. Okay, let's see what this card. King of Wands. Interesting. A lot of people. But also a lot of wand energy. So yeah, there are going to be opportunities to move on whatever it is that you've been dreaming about. And it could be anything. It could be relationship, it could be your job, it could be within your home, it could be maybe, I see the Knight of Cups, maybe you want to travel. Some of you might want to go on vacation. There might be, and I know that we're in the middle of a pandemic, but it says, you know, I'm looking at the numbers seem to be getting better. So maybe there might be an opportunity for you to travel. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic trip. It could be a place you've always wanted to go to. Any other information here? Messages. So, you know, let me focus for a second. So, anything else about this? A rare bloom message. A rare bloom, okay, I get these two here. Upside down, of course. Upside down again. Look at all of these. Interesting here. Yeah, I see some traveling. I see a lot of stop and go. Yeah, so there is, yeah, I see travel, and it could be for any reason. It could be for pleasure or for business. Interesting. A rare bloom. Yeah, some parts of 2022 are going to be opportunities to do things, to make things happen that kind of you're sitting, you know, sitting around waiting for, but you'll be able to there'll be some movement, and like it's indicated in this card, there'll be some growth, right? Let's see. A lot of wand energy. Yeah. Yeah, here, you know, some of your dreams, whatever it is, this card came up in another reading. So whatever it is that you've been envisioning, that you've been focusing on in terms of your manifestation, your intent, many of us are going to be manifesting that this year. And like I said, March is that magical, I want to say magical, but there'll be some breakthroughs, I guess I want to say, starting in the month of March. Any other information? A lot of activity here. Lots of activity. And for some of us, they're going to be rare. You know, it's funny, it says a rare bloom. Rare, very rare, considering what the last couple of years have been like. These are going to be some very rare opportunities for us to get things done that we've been putting on the back burner. And again, it could be pleasure, it could be business, it could be family, you know. Oh, never mind. Right, there goes that Ace of Pentacles again. Two more cards. Two more. Okay. Here's one. Up. This is upside down, right? Good. And that just came up again. So we got some repeaters today. One more. One more. One more. One more card. About and you know, this card came up for me. Oh, this is upside down. Okay, so this what I'm getting, like, immediately I get from that. I mean, it was upside down, but I'll put it right side up. And then this was upside down, so I put it right side up. I'm also getting the sense that any partnerships that have kind of been rocky you'll get some relief coming. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of movement going on very soon, and whatever this that you've been feeling, and this card also came up early on as well, that it's coming. It's coming. It's been hard, I know it. It's been hard, but it's coming. This ray of sunshine, that this plant or tree, that you've planted, is going to grow and thrive. Not just grow, but thrive is what I'm getting from these messages here. Any final messages for us from tarot? This one popped out. And look at this. This is upside down. We saw the Emperor card too. So this is telling me we've got to allow, because it goes back to that Ebb and Flow card, right? We've got to stop trying to control everything, control the process. That's what I'm picking up from this Emperor card. I didn't pick that up from the Emperor card and the other group of cards. But I'm getting that here, that we've got to stop trying to control everything, that we've got to let nature take its course, which I know is not always easy. And I know sometimes the messages are very I mean, even I become frustrated at times, because on the one hand, like Lao Tzu said, sometimes we should do nothing, and doing nothing is doing something, and we allow the Tao to do what it does. But then at the same time, we also are told, and then there's truth to this, that we have control over our lives. So it's like a combination of both. And it is it is very much, and I think this is so funny that this card comes up at the end, because I said that the next reading is going to focus on Saturn. And Saturn is about structure. It's about tradition, hierarchy. It's not a card that changes very quickly. So if you're in a period where Saturn is very much, a force, Saturn has definitely has helped make things more difficult to get moving and change, right? But the fact that we want to control, and Saturn's also has that control kind of energy to it as well. And so sometimes we do have to let nature take its course. We have to trust that, we put out our intentions, right? We have our vision, the seeds that we planted, and I'm getting it from this aura. This is the big theme here, that the seeds that we planted are going to grow. If they're going to sprout, and we have to just, be patient, right? And trust that what we envision, and like I said early on in this reading, that there are going to be dreams. Some of the dreams that we have are going to come true or begin to unfold, and we're going to be seeing evidence that we are getting close to seeing some of our dreams come true. So I think I'm sorry, I took these cards away. Okay. So I think I've got all four of them. Yeah. So this is the reading. This is the message that Uranus has for us. Very promising messages. I am feeling inspired and feeling hopeful about what lies ahead for us. And I will say that on a global scale, there is going to be a lot of shakeup, a lot of upheaval. The earth is going to shake some more around the planet, as it always does, but there'll be some notable shakes. um, weather changes definitely on the horizon, as they always are, right? But in our own personal lives, I think everything that many people have gone through, especially during the last 2 and going on 3 years, because things have been so slow moving in some respects. But I think that we're going to start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. There's some hope out there. This isn't going to last forever. And even when this happens, it doesn't last forever, right? It's just a season. So if this was helpful, enlightening to you, like I have mentioned before, I invite you to share in the comments section if you're also a tarot reader, whether you're a beginner or advanced, and you've seen the layout of these cards. Tell me what was coming up for you, and maybe some of it may be the same as what I stated, and you may have some additional messages. Please, I invite you to share with us. And once again, subscribe, like, hit the bell if you want to get more. Whenever I post videos, you can be one of the first to get the notifications. It is an absolute pleasure and joy to share these readings with you. And again, this is a new tarot channel, and I know that there are many others out there. And one of the reasons why I started this channel, it was an inspiration from other channels, other readers that I have followed, especially during this pandemic season. They have really helped me get through some really rough, tough patches. And so this is my way of giving back to the community. And so again, I hope that this was helpful for you. And I thank you for visiting Peace Lily Tarot. I'm sending lots of love and light to you. And until our next reading, bye now.